Welcome back here today in room 171, otherwise known as Studio B, right here on the beautiful campus of Florida Panhandle Technical College. We live right here in the heart of Chipley, Florida, and we appreciate all that we have right here. I was just mentioning to somebody this morning that we live in this little pocket of sanity. It doesn't take much to look around and see the craziness going on in the world, and for that we are truly blessed. Our guest today is Karen Quinn, otherwise known as Smooch. Photographs by Smooch. Karen has graciously accepted our invitation to come and talk a little bit about photography. This series is geared towards letting the area know about our creative people, artists, photographers, videographers, anybody who's out there making something, building something, making this area better, and I think by the end of this session you'll definitely agree that Karen does just that. When we come back, we're going to talk to Karen about all this and more, and we will be right back. Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest is Karen Quinn. I have to ask, how did you get the nickname Smooch?
Well, I had to thank my niece for that, because she was born the same year that my husband passed away. And so she got here in July, he passed away in December. I would leave him with whoever was local. His parents were there locally to take care of him. I'd run home for the weekend, grab the baby, let me smooch on the baby before I head back home to him. And it stuck, and it stuck hard. And most people don't even know that I have a first name anymore.
It works.
Smooch.
It works, though.
It does work.
It's clever. Smooch goes along with photography extremely well.
It does, and along with the horse people, because you'll hear them smooch their way out of a pen or into an alley, and it ties it all in very nicely.
Looking at your offerings online, especially Facebook, website, and so forth, you do a lot of different things, but in the pre-show you mentioned there are some things that you don't do, and we kind of align on that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But the equine photography, talk a little bit about that, how you got involved in that sort of thing.
I have been horse-brained since birth, I think. If there was a horse, I was drawn to it. That was my single prayer every single night, was for God just to drop a brand new horse in the backyard just for me. I've owned some. I've owned some crazy ones and silly ones, and everything about them just is perfect. I love the movement. I love the interaction with the people, anything about horses, and I am right there. So my niece started barrel racing at age 5. I followed her around. I love a good speed event. And I mean, there's so many disciplines and so many different things that folks do with their horses. And it's fascinating to me. That relationship is just fascinating to watch.
There seems to have been a resurgence in rodeo and equine-related events in general, especially in this area of Northwest Florida over the last 15, 20 years. And my students particularly love rodeo parade and being able to get maybe a behind-the-scenes look at the rodeo itself. I've certainly enjoyed shooting it. What are some of the challenges that you found when it comes to shooting that high-speed action photography?
Lighting. Lighting is awful in those arenas in the dark. A lot of the times, they won't run those horses during the summer. In the daytime, it's just too hot for everybody involved. So they'll start a barrel race at 8 or 9 o'clock at night and run till 3 or 4 in the morning. And rodeos kind of are the same way. It's just too hot. But that arena lighting can be awful. So there's, you've got to figure out how you can combat that and still get consistently good pictures with that speed that's being involved in that too.
So you need a high shutter speed, which is going to cut down your light, which means you need a fast lens, which means you're looking at least a 2.8 aperture, or if not larger. What do you find yourself shooting with when you're shooting that kind of stuff? It
kind of depends on how big that pen is. But I love that 200 that's got that 2.8 down to it. And if you line them up just underneath a light, you can get really, really lucky without having to deal with a whole lot of noise when you get done.
I really love the fact that it's so easy to get low-key shots. So it eliminates the background on its own, which will bring anybody to be a better photographer under those conditions. So whether it's the girls and the flag ceremony at the beginning, or whether it's that guy getting bucked off a bronco, or barrel racing. Barrel racing is pretty fascinating, and girls who barrel race are a different breed. They're from a different place, and hats off to them. My God, they have no fear, and the horses don't either, obviously. And they would do anything for their rider if it's their horse. So, with all that considered, I've seen some just glamorous photos that you've done about with barrel racing. People take that for granted. It's not an easy thing to do. What is your success rate? If you take 1,000 pictures, how many of them are going to be the ones that you brag about?
I honestly don't know. For me, it's a timing thing. I like it when the horses are goofy and they're fighting a bit and they're prancing around, they're hopping in and out. That some of them have some alley issues that they really, once they're past that, they're just as smooth as silk. But before that, they're an idiot. And I like when they're kind of goofy. I like when they do something they're not supposed to do. That's not always my barrel racer's favorite picture because they were obviously doing something they weren't supposed to do. But just rounding those barrels, a lot of those girls will cut in so close that that leg is above that barrel. And I mean, it's fascinating to watch them do what they do and make that decision in that split second that's going to leave that barrel standing and let them get out of that arena in less than 15 seconds. But I mean, I don't know how many I do that I would say, oh, that's a right home thing, because I shoot a bazillion pictures. So I wouldn't even go, I say maybe 20.
Do you shoot in a high-speed burst mode, or do you take single shots?
No, high-speed burst, and I shoot like that in just about everything that I do. With my little people, with my seniors, a lot of it with the equine stuff. You know, I'll lead there with 1,000 pictures and cull 400 of those just because ears are weird, because people want those ears perked forward, and we don't want mare ears in our picture.
Yeah, and you know what it is you want. So, yeah. Obviously, equine is not all that you shoot. As a matter of fact, I was attracted to your photography more by what you were doing with backlit seniors or grad pictures or just engagement style photos. I don't know if they were engagement or not, but it takes some real skill and time to develop the ability to take those kinds of pictures. Otherwise, you're going to be chastened by lens flare and everything else. Talk a little bit about that, and in general, talk about how you got into photography and what, besides equine, what appeals to you and what you spend your time trying to hone.
I shot kind of everything across the board when I first got started, because it started with the equine stuff and with the barrel racing. That was just kind of a go-to thing for me. I was comfortable with those people and with the horses and everything else. And then it was like, oh, you have a camera. Oh, well, you can do this and do that and the other. So it kind of evolved. And I mean, obviously you're not going to make a living shooting barrel races all the time with the local saddle clubs. So, okay, weddings pay big. Let's try that. No, that's a lot of stress and a lot of stuff and I've got friends that are very, very good at all those detail shots and then just capturing that day. That's not my thing. I did find that my little guys, my 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, I love that age. Those are some fun kids, and seniors. I like the seniors. I tried just about every kind of photography there is out there. And some of it took me a little bit longer to realize that I wasn't good at it or I didn't really enjoy it as much as the other stuff. The seniors I enjoy, my little people I really, really like. And I have a good rapport with that group. So that makes that way easier to do.
My students, especially that are truly the photography students, the biggest problem that they seem to have is getting close enough to people. They want to use those long zooms, and they want to be a sniper, you know, from 50 or 100 feet away. And the hardest thing to teach them is that if you're there as a professional photographer, as an official member of the photography party, you get out there in the middle of that homecoming parade or in the middle of that rodeo parade, and if you don't get those close shots, you're losing you're leaving it on the table. What kind of problems did you have when you first started? You seem like a people person, so you probably didn't have a problem talking to people, but so often that is. How did that transpire for you? Did you jump right into being able to go head to head with people from a foot away taking photos?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't meet a stranger, and I pretty much would talk to a stump if I thought it would talk back. But it's just it's that little town mentality. Everybody is kind of going to be nice to me, and we're going to have a conversation about whatever. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, and I'm really, really nosy. So I'll ask something. If I'm shooting something that I've never been at before, I'm going to pepper you with a million questions about what I'm doing, not only to kind of educate myself about it, but that way I can give you the images that you need to, based on what you're looking for in that. But I will talk to anybody.
I tell my students this all the time. I don't know if they believe it or not, but I literally learn more from them on a daily basis than they do from me. Because I'll tell students, well, you can't do that. That's not the way to do it. You can't do it. It won't work that way. And what do they want to do? They want to prove you wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And they will. And I'll find out how they did it, and I'll steal their idea. And the next time they'll be doing this. They don't want to let me see their work. But you mentioned the ease of talking to people and in an environment that you can do that without people going, what are you looking at me for? What are you talking to me for? Like you would in New York City.
Right.
But we live in an area that makes it much easier for that to be the case. And I think that there's a welcoming attitude. And then once you're known, every parade you go to, they're throwing their kids out in front of you saying, hey, you took that last good shot of my child. I want you to do the same thing. However, does that equate to being able to make a living as a photographer? Does that equate to being able to charge for your photographs? What's your challenge there? You're the best photographer in town. You take the best photos of my young child. But by God, I'm not going to spend X number of dollars to have that happen. How do you deal with that so that you can at least afford your addiction of buying new photography gear?
I think what happens is you get to a point where you are, I took a mentor program class with an equine photographer who was top notch. And the best advice that she gave me was to get out of anybody's pockets. So you don't worry about if they're not going to pay it or if they are going to pay it. You set your prices for what you're worth, for what it encompasses for your editing and time and everything else, and let it ride. I love that small town community, but it is one of the most difficult things to do because everybody and their brother's a photographer. And they'll charge $35 or they'll charge $50, and you can no longer compete with that if you've been doing this for 20 or 30 years. You can't do it. So it's a struggle to find that kind of fine line with this will support me in my household and my addiction, and then being priced completely out of a market. So sometimes you have to get kind of creative with what you do, because once those people learn that not only am I going to give you good images, I'm going to call you on your birthday, and I'm going to have a good relationship with your children, and they're going to run to me when they see me in the grocery store. That in itself equates to a client that you're going to have for a whole lot more time than you would have if you just didn't do it.
I understand completely, and well said. I think that, especially in a small community like that, after a period of time, everybody knows you're there. And obviously you have to keep refreshing their memory and let them know that, hey, I'm still here. Because there's always that new person with a Christmas present camera or a graduation present, and they're going to be out there, and it'll never come out of the automatic mode, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, quality rises to the surface, I truly believe.
I do too.
So let's nerd out for a moment. Some of our viewers probably are going to say, "Oh boy, they're going to start talking about camera brands," and that's exactly what I want to do. So let's start talking about the technical stuff just a little bit, touch on it. So as much as anything, so my students can get a wide range of knowledge about all kinds of stuff. What brand the camera do you shoot?
I'm a Nikon girl.
Okay, so people don't realize. Sometimes, especially if they've never really been a photographer, but we date a camera and we marry a lens.
We do.
You marry the lens and you spend that $3,000 or $4,000 in some cases on a lens, but it's going to be with you forever if you don't drop it or get it wet, or and if you do take care of it. Whereas a camera has those certain number of actuations, after which I had one camera, we're Canon, I had a Canon 5D Mark III. I got 768,000 photos on it, and it was rated for 250. So every time I went out, I had another one with me, obviously, because I just knew it was going to be the last one where it went half a click and that was stopped. Pretty amazing stuff. What kind of lifestyle, what kind of quality of operation are you getting out of your cameras in general? Not the fact that they're Nikons, but first of all, what Nikon do you shoot?
I shoot with a D500.
Okay.
And I have a backup D500 because I am not technically brained. I don't know probably half of what that camera will do. I know what I need it to do, and I know how to make it do that.
And you can always take this one and set it down and pick up the other one.
I did purchase a mirrorless camera into last year. I've used it twice. I hate it. I hate it so far, and I know it's just that change. I don't like it. I'm comfortable with my D500. I know what it will do. I know what it will produce, and I'm very happy with that. But I'm brutal on a camera. I was at a rodeo, and I had another girl that was a photographer come up to me, and she said, "How long have you been doing this?" And I said, "About 20 years or so." And she said, "I can tell because you just changed the camera lens with all this dirt going on. You didn't run back to the car." I said, "I used to do that. I'll just go home and clean it." I learned how to do that at home. But I am not very kind to my camera. It is a workhorse and it is tough, and I love it for it.
Which is a reason and a good argument for buying a quality camera, because now they're at least weather resistant, and if you get the top of the line, sometimes they're actually weatherproof, at least to a certain extent. On the mirrorless issue, I was shooting I had gone through a series of Canons and was on the Canon 5D Mark IV, and was ready to try a mirrorless. And I knew I had a little bit of time left on the Mark IV. I had two of them actually. And I broke down and bought a Canon R and a Canon R5. I did the same thing as you. I can't tell how many times I would take it with me. Oh, they're getting ready to start the event. I'll wait till next time. Or I take a picture or two. Oh man, this is terrible. I got to put some time into that. For what it's worth, and for somebody who has shot as long as you have, when you have some time and it's not a crunch time, the bride's not walking out, but rather it's, you got nothing to do, you are going to be so pleasantly surprised. The electronic shutter and how fast, and if you like burst mode, it's going to knock your socks off.
It is quieter too. I did notice.
Totally. Oh, and then they have a silent mode for weddings or funerals, and you put that in, and you are really in ninja mode then. Oh, yeah. But you're going to love mirrorless. But I know exactly what you're saying, and I'm not saying hurry up and do it. It's got to be the right time for you, because it's going to be just like learning manual mode all over again.
Oh, yes.
Not as much, and there's not as much, and I shouldn't say that because that sounds scary, but it's really not that much, but it's different. It's a different animal, yes. And what you see is what you get. You're watching a video in the viewfinder instead of looking through the lens. Yep. So that freaks you out at first.
It's a little weird.
And sometimes battery life is not as good in mirrorless, and there's some other issues, but trust me, you're going to love it. And just ask a favor from you, the day that you finally get to the point where you say, wow, yes, give me a call or drop me a line.
I know that I like it to the point of, it's lighter than my D500, but I did a lot of research because mainly what I shoot is of that high speed events and wildlife and everything. The Z9 is the one that I want. The Z9 is also way out of my budget, but I know that consistently those things, and I kind of will produce something else that's going to be newer and faster and better. That Z9 will come down. I told my husband, I said, I'll go ahead and get the Z6. And I'll cut my teeth on that one. I'll try that. And so I did. I made myself take it to a wrestling match. It was quieter. I shot with it. It was dependable. It shot great. Did everything I needed it to do. Got home. Couldn't import my pictures into Lightroom. Just ignored them. Had no idea I was shooting with the wrong card at all. I'm not that technical brained. And so I've since bought that. It is still in the box. I still haven't taken it out of the box yet.
One day you will be ready for that. You, and I thanked you earlier, but thank you again for driving from Bristol, Florida, about an hour's drive from here. You live in God's country.
Yes.
I think we do, but when I look at Bristol, I'm familiar with that whole area along the Highway 20 there. You're on the Apalachicola River. You're right there at the Apalachicola National Forest. You talk about being able to shoot wildlife. Where in the world is there more wildlife on a 12-month basis than in just that area right there?
I have some of my favorite bear pictures that were taken on my driveway. A mom and her cub, and they just stayed there just as pretty as I had time to go home, get my camera, come back, and I have some of the best pictures of bears right there on my own property. We live on 65 acres,
So with that estuary there, with the river, I would imagine you just got birds galore.
And you name it.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they seem to be a little more prevalent right here lately. Like I grew up on the property that I currently live on. And I can't remember ever seeing a coyote. And we've seen them in the yard and eagles and everything else. And for whatever reason, I don't know if some of that forest is kind of being taken over by other things, and those things are just kind of getting a smaller range of where they live. But we're very fortunate to be able to see that stuff on a daily basis.
There's no doubt. There are so many people. I grew up in Boston. I grew up in the city. But I knew from an early age that I wanted to go out west. I wanted to go down south. I wanted to see what we have to offer in this area. There are people that never see grass unless they go to a park.
I met a girl who had never seen a cow in real life. And she was from New York City, and she had never physically seen a cow in real life. I'm like, I don't even know how that feels.
And some of those people that want to say, I don't believe in killing animals, I'll get my food at the grocery store.
The grocery store.
Yeah.
I'll just do that.
Yeah. We are so fortunate. We live in an area that has the finest people. I think some of the best weather in the world. We experience all 4 seasons. When I first moved to Florida, somebody told me that there were 3 seasons: too hot, too cold, and too nice to work.
There you go.
And it's the too nice to work stuff that we get in the fall and the spring that we love so much that doesn't last long enough.
It does not.
But even in the hottest summer and the coldest winter, I still think that this is probably the best place to live.
Yeah. And we had snow this year. I mean, I turned into a complete idiot. I mean, I was out there in it the whole entire day.
Was that the first time you were in that much snow?
Yes. Well, I mean, I had gone to my late husband had surgery in Michigan in February, and there was a lot of snow on the ground. It did not snow the entire 2 weeks we were there at all. I said, I guess I brought just enough Florida with me. But I had seen that much snow, but certainly not here.
We lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan
Yes.
for a number of years, and we said there that we had the winter and the 4th of July. Those were our 2 seasons, and it was either really hot or it was snow 6 foot deep. You live right close to the time zone change, right? You're in Eastern,
Yes.
and across the river, or the river itself, is Central.
Right. We are on God's time.
Yes.
That's how you can fast time or slow time, Eastern, Central, but mainly it's God's time.
Well, again, when we lived in Ann Arbor, close to Detroit, which is where the time changes, and constantly with everybody you spoke to is your time or my time. I'll be there at such a time. Well, that your time or my time? So when you confirmed that you were coming and you said, now that's 9 o'clock Central, and I really appreciated that because I totally spaced. I completely forgot the fact that you were going to be on Eastern, and I can't tell you how many times people have come from Tallahassee and they've either been early or late.
Yep.
The good thing is it took you no time at all to get here, but it'll take you 2 hours to get back, right?
It will. I'll lose that whole hour going home.
I know you're an hour away, and I know and you were gracious enough to do it, but it is still a drive. Would there ever be any opportunity, and I'm not asking you for a yes, no now, but I want you to consider something, but do you think that there might be an opportunity at some point for you to visit us and maybe have a segment where you sit in front of some of my students and be able to explain some of the process that you went through becoming a business, some of the stories that we've just talked about? I think that you would have a lot to share. Would something like that be doable, perhaps, maybe sometime?
Absolutely. I don't know that I already told you I'm not very technical brain.
No. This is not about technical.
I'm a horrible business person. I'm awful.
It's not necessarily about business. You're successful.
Yes.
And you're putting out quality photography. That's the success part of it.
Yep.
I am probably a little bit worse at business than you are. Trust me.
I'm pretty bad.
Every time I've worked for corporate America, I've been told by my boss, you care more about the customer than you do about the business. To which I replied, isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Yep.
You know,
I think so.
When
Well, and it was like I had a session last night, and if you really want to know how you are as a photographer, hire you a 5-year-old because they have 0 filter, and they will absolutely tell you. I brought dresses for her, and she was very quick to tell me which ones that she didn't really like. And I told her, I said, well, I kind of need these modeled for my client closet, so do you mind wearing them? And she was gracious enough to do it. But she wanted to look at some of the images when we got done too. So I showed her some of those. I said, how are we doing? She said, those look good. And I mean, they will flat out tell you. Absolutely. So
Isn't it wonderful?
It is. It's great. It's great. Because, I mean, they're brutally honest. And if they tell you that, no, I'm not doing that, or no, that's awful, we might need to redo it. But ultimately, I think as a photographer, that's why you're there. You want that client to go, oh my gosh, that's totally me. And I love that picture. That's the whole point.
What people don't seem to understand, or they don't want to acknowledge, is that we as photographers don't make them look any way. We simply capture what is in front of us. And when people say, oh, the camera makes me look 20 pounds heavier, or, you can see all my wrinkles. Well, we can deal with that with lighting. That's not a problem. I personally love wrinkles. I think it's just the character. Women don't like it so much.
don't.
I get it. Realtors, probably the worst. They're using their homecoming picture from 30 years ago because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that we age, but we do. And I think that the truly nice people in the world are gracious and accept it, and they just go on. And what I was going to say when you were talking about the 5-year-old with no filter, it wasn't that long ago that we could be that way as well.
Absolutely.
Most recently, to the nth degree with the wokeness and all of that, but little by little, the political correctness, the HR department of businesses, I'm not saying we need to be mean to each other, but why does it take us 40 minutes to have a meeting to decide something which you could just say yes or no to on the spot, but that wouldn't be politically correct? It grabs my soul, I have to tell you.
My employees tell all the new employees, they say, well, if you know one thing about Miss Karen is that she will never sugarcoat anything for you. She's going to tell you straight up, hurt feelings or not, and then we're going to move forward from there. I don't have time for all that.
I think my students will tell you the same thing. Yep. My classes right now, the ones I offer, are 900 hours and 1,200 hours respectively. And that's 30 hours a week, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. We're soon going to go to a 4-day week with 7.5-hour days, which will still give us 30 hours per week. That may seem like a long time, but most of these people have never touched a camera. They may have taken pictures with an iPhone. Very first day, we give them a DSLR camera, soon probably to be mirrorless instead, but a DSLR camera, and they have to learn how to shoot in manual mode by the close of business that day. So within 5 or 6 hours, they are not only shooting in manual, but they're going into Lightroom and doing a rudimentary editing. So by the end of the first day, I've either got them or they're running for home.
They're done.
And by putting that pressure on them, and we're right there beside them, and we'll correct them. We'll give them as much help as they want. Of course, a lot of them, I can do it. But the know-it-alls don't last long, and they've discovered pretty quickly, yeah, I can use that help, which makes them a better person by the end of the class. So it's the great leveler. We have people come in that are geeks and that know all this stuff. We have the others that are not so. They may be a little bit more mechanically challenged. At the end of that school year, though, everybody they love each other. They're a family. They know they can depend on each other. It's life skills. It's a lifestyle change. I'm a little bit mean because I make them say hello and good morning when they get here in the morning, and I make them say bless you when somebody sneezes. It's not a religious thing. It's a courtesy thing. And a lot of people, adults included, we've lost that courtesy. How many times do you see people roll through a stop sign anymore? And that's just happened in the last few years. I think since Hurricane Michael.
Yeah, we see a lot of entitlement.
Yeah.
And we're not fans at all.
Yeah. And those are some of your clients. And you hope that they are, because those people will spend money.
They will.
Much of the time. And if they're entitled, if they have entitlement mentality, even if they don't have any money, they're going to find a way to buy your photos, because if you're that go-to person in that community. How do you deal with people in general? Obviously, the client's always right. If they want a pink Cadillac, you sell them a pink Cadillac.
That's fine.
But
That's fine.
In your experience, how do you deal with people in general and those a little bit more difficult people?
Again, I don't meet any strangers. So I do, especially with my seniors, I have a whole magazine that I developed this is what you'll get from me, and this is what I expect you to do. And it lays it out just from those years of experience where, you had somebody that decided the morning of their shoot, a spray tan is a fabulous idea. It's not. Trust me. Don't get your hair cut weird, but the week before, because it takes a little bit. I mean, I've gone to my hairdresser and said, how many days do I have before it looks halfway normal? Tell me that. That information went in that book. I'm very open. I'm very upfront. What you see is kind of what you get. And I will be glad to find you another photographer that is better suited for you and what you need if I'm not that photographer. Don't have a problem. I will give you a whole list of people all day long to help you out, because if I can't give you the images that you want and we can't connect on where we need to be, I'm not the photographer for you. I'm okay with that.
You have to be willing to walk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will help you find a photographer that does fit what you need. I know a lot of those people, and I will gladly give out phone numbers and recommendations all day long. But there's no sense in me fighting a client to that. Now, I will tell a client, I'll push you out of your comfort zone a little bit. If I've got a girl that's coming that's blue jeans and T-shirts, just one time, put on this one dress for me. Just try it on and see how it does. I'm not going to make you so miserable that it's going to show in all those images that you hated that every aspect of that. But I'll push you a little bit. I'll push you just to see how it looks, how it feels, and give you a little bit of variety to your sessions.
You may change a few lives that way.
Maybe. I hope so.
What's the best part? What's the most rewarding part of being a photographer?
The people. I've got a mom that I've taken pictures of her daughter. Her daughter just turned 7, and she also has a set of twins. And those twins will see me and the older daughter too. And they want to come see their Smooch. that's the whole point about it right there, is that I'm everybody's smooch, and they will run to me in the grocery store or at the football field or wherever we are. And it's rewarding enough that I'll get to be part of all of those major events. I'll get to be there when they graduate kindergarten and then high school and engagements and the whole 9 yards for some of these kids. I'm taking pictures of kids barrel racing that I took pictures of their moms when they started barrel racing. And I know that dates me really a lot, but it is what it is. So it's just the people. I like those people.
Got to ask the next follow-up question, and that's, what's the most challenging part of being a photographer? Exactly the same answer.
Absolutely the same thing. It's hard for, you've built that rapport with a client, and they love you to death, and their sister gets a camera and is very good with the camera and starts her own business and is very good with her business, and you've lost a client. It's difficult to let those clients go to somebody else. As long as they're getting good images, you have to be okay with that. But that's hard. It's hard to lose a client.
Yeah, not only are they accomplishing what they're trying to get, which is good photos, but you still have that history with them. They look back on that third grade graduation picture, and that can never be replaced.
No, you don't get replaced as I don't get replaced as somebody else's smooch. I'm still theirs. But to lose them as a client, it's difficult to let them go. You want them to have good images, and as long as they're getting that, you kind of have to be okay with that. But you do have that history, and you still have that rapport with people.
For the last 20 years, my wife and I have shot most of the local sports games, high school graduations, kindergarten graduations, parades, festivals. And it's amazing how many students walk through my door to be in my class, and they say, "Hey, last night my mother was showing me some pictures that you took of me when I was 3 years old at the Wausau Possum Festival," and they're 20 years old now, or somebody who I take a picture of at the graduation coming up in a couple of weeks from high school, and I shot them at kindergarten 12 years ago. Your extended family keeps getting bigger. And in the smaller community, which we both live in, that's a huge part of any business. But you get a chance to take a peek at the more intimate parts of somebody's life. You see them getting ready and fussing when they're getting ready to get married. Yeah. You see them maybe doing the same thing when they're getting ready to do something not so pleasant. Talk a little bit about that and that wide spectrum, how as a photographer, you're always there, but you always have to be kind of in the background.
You do. You're fortunate enough that, you may be privy to the gender of a baby or a pregnancy announcement before family members are, because they've had that all set up. I've done, surprise engagements and, where family might have known about it, but you've got at least one person there that didn't have a clue it was coming. And, so that stuff is so rewarding, and it kind of gives you, kind of a sense of worth. You were worth knowing all that information beforehand. You were worthy to be there. And so that's a big thing. It's hard on the other side of that. It's hard to do a session when you know that that's the last time you're going to see that horse or that dog, and that dog's been part of that family. You've taken pictures of that dog for the last 10, 12 years, and you know that the next family group session will not have that dog. And it's difficult for some of that stuff, and to try to step back. I'm super emotional. I'll cry right along with you all the time. And it's hard to kind of be a little bit removed from that, because ultimately once your part is done, then family is gathered and this, that, and the other, your part's kind of over. So it's not like you get kicked to the curb, but you did your part. You were a part of that whole thing that played out, and you have to kind of be okay with the part that you played.
As a photographer, we sometimes have to, as you just pointed out, sacrifice ourselves for the greater good of what we're there to document or to support. But what a fulfilling life it is. What an opportunity to be a part of, once again, that extended family. Thank you so much for taking the time. The drive, I don't discount. I recognize that was a labor of love, and I really do appreciate you coming and spending the time sharing your experiences with us. As our way of saying thanks, I want you to look right into that camera there, and I know you don't like business and you don't like tech. Introduce yourself to our audience, which is kind of doing this backwards here. We probably should have done that at the beginning, but you probably would not have been as comfortable as you are maybe now. But look right into that. You already know you have a welcoming audience here as in our viewers. Look into the camera, introduce yourself, tell them the name of your business, what you do, where you do it, and invite them to use your services.
Well, my name is Karen Quinn, but nobody calls me Karen anymore. And Karen's kind of gotten a weird connotation with it in and of itself there too. So we're just going to nix the Karen for now and just go by Smooch directly. So I do have Photographs by Smooch. I'm located in Bristol, Florida. I do travel a lot, and Liberty County is a beautiful county, a huge county, lots of opportunities to be photographed there. I'm mainly focused on equine sports, and seniors and family portraits.
Well done. Karen's contact information is on the screen right now. That way you don't have to expect anybody to remember that those long strings of URLs. Again, thank you so much. I'm hoping that you will come back at some point for some reason, whether it's to share some of your stuff with our students, or maybe when you're in this area and you need to be able to have a studio facility, you'd feel comfortable enough to give me a call and say, hey, I've got somebody in your area that needs portraits. Can we perhaps slip by That's something that we always offer as our way of saying thank you. So again, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Our guest today has been Karen Quinn, otherwise known as Smooch, and from now going forward, I will call you Smooch. Another in our series of just introducing to you the community, the extended family of creative people that we truly enjoy in this part of Northwest Florida. We are so blessed with photographers and artists of all nature, from TV and radio people to photographers and artists of all flavors. Hopefully you learn a little bit of something in every one of our shows. Tune in often, tune in regularly. You never know who's going to be sitting right here in room 171. We'll be right back.